Welcome back. We have Cottie Petrie-Norris, who is a candidate for state assembly with us, who's going to give us a rundown of why she's running for office. Well, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, so state assembly, tell me a little bit about some of the responsibilities.
So it's funny you should ask, because when I tell people that I'm running for state assembly, the first thing they say is, "That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited." Then the second thing they say is, "Wait, what is the state assembly?"
Right.
So the assembly is essentially California's Congress. So working with the governor and with the state senate, the assembly is responsible for establishing laws for the state of California, for setting the state budget, and that really sets our priorities as a state. And as I'm sure you know, California is not just the largest economy in America, we are the 5th largest economy in the world. So what happens in California matters a lot. And having a good representative for our district in the assembly also matters a lot.
Okay, excellent. Tell me a little bit about your background. I know you have a background in finance, so we'll get to that, but just kind of give me a rundown.
Okay, great. So I grew up not too far away, grew up in San Diego County, and I grew up in a hardworking blue-collar family, and thanks very much to a couple of wonderful teachers and really good California public schools, I was able to go on to Yale University. And at Yale, I studied English and economics, and for the past 20 years, I've had a career in finance and marketing, both here and overseas. So I spent a number of years working in South Africa and then in London, both for large companies and for a couple of startups as well. Okay,
and how do you feel that your education would benefit you in being this particular candidate?
So I am, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a community leader, I'm a working mom. I believe that I know how to solve problems and I know how to get things done, and I think that is what we need more of in our government at every level.
Okay, and so why are you running for the state assembly? I mean, what are you looking at, some issues that you really don't agree with?
So I think, so for me, this election is really about better representation for our community and better results for our community. I think this is such an important primary election, and I know this is an incredibly engaged community, which is wonderful, but I really do believe all across Orange County, at every level of government, we need to elect people who reflect our values, who are going to stand up for the issues that we care about, and importantly, are going to deliver for our community. And in my situation, that means bringing more of our tax dollars back from Sacramento to Orange County.
How would you do that? Like, give me an example.
Okay, so right now, one of the I've been in Orange County. I've been living in Laguna Beach for the past 6 years. I'm raising my family there. And I've observed that Orange County is increasingly becoming an island in the sea of California politics. We are increasingly isolated, and the net result of that is we're not getting our fair share. So Orange County is a donor county. So we pay a lot more in taxes to the state government than we're able to bring back to the district. And that's not just kind of the way it is. A big part of that is the fact that we do not have a representative who's been able to build effective partnerships across the aisle, and who's been able to develop programs and bring funding back to our communities. So, some examples of that would include when you look at some of our neighboring representatives. So Sharon Quirk-Silva, for example, who you may know, she represents the Fullerton area in the assembly. Sharon was responsible for the funding for the Veterans Cemetery in Irvine. So she secured $30 million in funding for our community, which is terrific. A little further down the road, we've got a woman named Sabrina Cervantes, who's a representative in Riverside. And in the 2018 budget, there's $500 million in funding for her district for infrastructure projects and road development projects. And that's meaningful. That is jobs and that's economic growth. And that's what we need more of right here.
Okay, all right, well that's good. And then, you mentioned taxes. So we've got, our gas tax, and we've got some other additional taxes that are here now. How would you be taking from those types of taxes to bring back here?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, as you know, we recently passed a bill called SB1, which is for the road and infrastructure development across California, and that is a very controversial issue. But what to me is most problematic is that we're not, as I said, getting our fair share back here in our district.
Right.
And I think it's really hard to ask people to pay that little bit more at the pump when they're not seeing the benefit in their community.
Okay, let's talk about some of the or the opponent. You have some certain issues that I think you would like to maybe point out why you would be better.
Well, you know, as I've looked at the landscape and just looked at the way that that our government functions between the federal, the state, and the local level, one thing that is so important is effective partnership. And the incumbent is a gentleman named Matt Harper, and he is one of these people who puts partisan politics in front of getting things done. So he is very extreme in his views, and he's unwilling to compromise, and he's unwilling to partner with people across the aisle in order to get projects done, in order to get legislation passed.
Okay. And
the reality is, when you're working in government, you've got to be able to partner effectively, both with your local community, with your local government, and with the people that you're working with at the assembly level. He hasn't been able to do that. I think that his track record demonstrates that over the last 2 terms, he's fundamentally out of touch with this community, and he's fundamentally failing to deliver.
Okay. All right, and then let's talk about some of the issues. I know you said, the fair share. What about, let's talk about education, the environment, the economy, things like that. What are some other issues?
So for me, there are 2 sets of priorities when I think about the assembly. So at the state level, for me, my top 3 priorities are public education, protecting the environment, and growing the economy, and making sure that we are creating an economy where everyone can succeed.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, just to say a little bit more about education, when I look back on the arc of my life, public education played such a critical role. And I know that I would not be where I am today or who I am today were it not for really good California public schools and really good California public school teachers. And I want to make sure that kids growing up across this district and across California, whatever your zip code, have those same opportunities to succeed.
So what would you say in terms of the education? Like, well, how can you get the teachers to really, take part more than they are now?
So I think when I think about my priorities for education, number 1 is making sure that we do provide universal pre-K, so that we are leveling the playing field even before kindergarten starts. And studies have shown, 20 years of studies have shown just how important that is, and have also demonstrated that if you invest $1 in pre-K, that pays back something between $5 and $15, depending on the studies and the analysis. So we know that that's it's good for people, and it's also good for the economy. And then when you talk about teachers, I think it's important that we let teachers teach, and that we value the contributions that they're making, and understand that I, as a legislature in Sacramento, I'm not in touch with what's happening in the classroom and in that community. So as much as possible, I think it's important that at the state level we're creating the right incentives, and we're creating the right targets, but that we are giving local control back to our local school boards and making sure that teachers can teach and do their jobs.
Okay. Real quickly, I know you had a few numbers. I guess we've already got some ballots in.
Yes, we do. So Laguna Woods, so out of the 13,000 registered voters in Laguna Woods, 1,800 of them have returned their ballots so far, which is terrific. And I think one of the great things about this community is just how politically engaged you are.
Right.
So yeah, if people have not turned your ballot in, do it now, or remember to vote on June 5th. This is an incredibly important election.
Right. Well, very good. Thank you very much for the information.
Well,
it was nice to meet you.
So good to meet you.
Good luck to you.
And have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
All right, you too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
And if you want more information about Cottie Petrie-Norris, you can go to votecottie.com. We'll be right back after this.